Okay, now I want to talk about the trickiest logical operator, the implication operator, which I wanted to put in a separate video because it's the sort of the most counterintuitive. So first off, before we go into anything else, let's just look at the truth table for implication. So here's the truth table. If P is 0 and Q is 0, if both the inputs are false, then the output is true. If the first input is false and the second one is true, the whole thing's true. The first input is true and the second output is false, it's false. And if both are true, it's true. So the only case where it's false is when you've got true implies false. Okay? So you can think of an implication as like a promise or a contract. And basically this contract is saying if P is true, it follows that Q is true. It makes no guarantees about the state of Q if P is false. And this case here is particularly strange to understand why if P is false and Q is still true, the whole thing is true anyway. So I want to sort of like demonstrate why this works by giving you a more concrete example. So we'll pretend P is the statement you pass the exam for this course, and Q is the statement I buy you ice cream. That means P implies Q can be thought of as the statement if you pass the exam, then I will buy you ice cream. Okay? So this is a promise, right? If you pass the exam, then I buy you ice cream. And there's really 4 cases to consider here, right? So we'll do the easy case first. So if P is true and Q is true, then we have true implies true. So this is a circumstance where you did pass the exam and then I bought you ice cream afterwards. That means I kept my promise. That means true implies true is equal to true. And that matches our truth table here. So this one is good. Okay. Do the next easy case. P is true. P is false and Q is false. So false implies false. This is the state where you failed the exam and I didn't buy you ice cream. I mean, I kept my promise, right? So false implies false is equivalent to true. So this one's okay. This one's a little bit weird. Well, we'll do the third easiest, and then we'll save the tricky one for last. So P is true and Q is false. True implies false. This is the circumstances where you did pass the exam, but I didn't hold up my end of the bargain. I didn't buy you ice cream afterwards, right? So you passed the exam, but I didn't keep my promise. That means the promise is broken, and true implies false is equivalent to false, which matches this row in the truth table. Here's the interesting one. When P is false, but Q is true. Okay? False implies true. So this is the circumstance where you did fail the exam, but I kind of felt bad for you and took pity on you, and I bought you ice cream anyway, right? So you failed the exam, but I bought ice cream anyway. I technically haven't broken my promise, right? All I guaranteed is that if you pass the exam, then I'll buy you ice cream. I didn't really specify what would happen if you failed the exam, right? It could be the case that regardless of what you do with the exam, I'm going to buy you ice cream anyway, right? So this state here, whenever the left-hand side is false, it happens that the implication is always true. Because the first part, the condition for the promise wasn't held, so then the whole thing falls apart. There's no guarantees about the status of ice cream if you fail the exam. So false implies true is still true because even though it's sort of not in the spirit of the promise wasn't broken. You failed the exam, I kind of felt bad, I bought you the ice cream anyway. So false implies true is true, and that's that row of the truth table there. So that's how the implication operator works.